This is Olivia Green interviewing Les Gilford for the HBCU Radio Preservation Project. It is 9:32 a.m. on May 7th, 2025, and this interview is being recorded at WCSU in Wilberforce, Ohio. Thank you again, Mr. Gilford, for being here today and for making some time.
Yeah. Certainly. And just call me Les, please.
Les. Gotcha. So first, please state your full name and tell me about your relationship to WCSU.
Well, Les Gilford. I worked for WCSU in the 80s. I was operations manager, which was a highfalutin term. It was always a shoestring operation. We had, I think 5 or 6 people actually on staff, quite a few students that did some work study. But I was kind of keeping things going in a programming sense, trying to keep all the equipment running with spit and baling wire, and just working as we could work.
Yeah. Okay. I have a lot of follow-up questions about that time and that experience, but before we get into that, can you tell me when and where you were born?
Well, I was born in Bluffton, Indiana. My father was a Methodist minister, and so we moved around quite a bit from Spencerville, Indiana, to 7 Mile, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. Then last place that he had a pastorate was in Lima, Ohio. And then from Lima, I came down to attend Antioch.
And when were you born?
1954.
Okay. So moving around so much, is there a place that you kind of consider home? Is there a place that you lived that felt most like where your roots are?
Yes. It probably was Lima, even though I'm not particularly fond of some of the political aspirations of Lima. But it was in relatively formative years and probably the longest that we've stayed in one spot. And it was a unique and informative experience, let me put it that way. Dad moved from a pastorate in what at that time was called a changing neighborhood, from a all-white neighborhood to a black neighborhood. The church was all white, amazingly enough, and we were in the black neighborhood in the parsonage. And then Dad developed a number of programs ministering actually to the people in the neighborhood. He started out with Study on Wheels, where he bought a old school bus, refurbished it with desks and so on, and then drove around the neighborhood and with some college students, myself, and some other folks tutoring kids in their schoolwork. Then the church proper did not particularly appreciate that, so he developed what he later called Family Life Ministries in Lima, with the blessings of the Methodist Church that did community organization. He developed an early version of the template for Habitat for Humanity, and we did a lot of hands-on things in the both from community organization standpoint as well as physically working there.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. I mean, my next question was going to be kind of about your family and the people that raised you. So tell me a little bit about your dad and kind of the person that you're describing here.
Well, He was an unusual person, certainly an unusual pastor in the fact that even though he was in organized religion, he really fervently felt that all religions, primarily, at least the major religions, are speaking the same message but from a different cultural perspective. And as a consequence, he wasn't really burdened with specific dogma that seems to always pop up in organized religion. The powers that be in the organized religion that he was associated with, the United Methodist Church, at times came to numerous disagreements. But, to their credit and to his credit, they seemed to find common ground. And he was a well-rounded individual. Probably the closest analogy would be he was a Renaissance man. I mean, he was in World War II. He was a Army Air Corps chief mechanic. Then he went on to work at International Harvester in Fort Wayne, Indiana, as their youngest chief engineer that developed their first V8 at the age of 24 or something.
Wow.
And then he felt he had a calling, and then dropped what was a beginning of a very successful and lucrative career to serve in the ministries. So and he always followed his heart.
Yeah. And what was it like being raised by someone like that? Like,
well, I'm very blessed to be the recipient of two very accomplished and loving parents. Too often that's not the case with people. There's a lot to overcome in their formative years. I didn't have that type of thing to overcome. I mean, everybody has their own foibles when they're growing up, but certainly having loving, caring, and demanding parents was a blessing. I couldn't get away with too much. Let me put it that way. I tried rather fervently, but it never worked out too well.
Tell me a little bit about your mother.
Well, she was a very remarkable person as well. She worked hand in glove with Dad in helping develop the ministry. She did much of the nuts and bolts of putting things together, of making them a cohesive guideline and roadmap. She would be always at the forefront of the development and working in the community and so on. And after my father died, she did continue on doing some things, even though she was in her 60s and 70s, working with, at that point in time, I think it was the Roman Catholic Church in Lima, that diocese, had a program that was working with returning inmates from Marysville, and she mentored them and worked with them and Habitat for Humanity with them working on the Habitat projects and developed long-lasting and meaningful relationships. Most of the participants in the program ended up calling her mom, so she had that effect.
Yeah. I'm really intrigued by this Study on Wheels program that you mentioned. Can you tell me a little bit about like how that started, how you started getting involved with it?
Well, I didn't have any choice.
Okay.
And of course, that was one of my now I'm very grateful I didn't have a choice. But when I was young and, hey, I wanted to go play basketball. I wanted to do anything except, tutor somebody in math or whatever. That was not my idea of a fun-filled afternoon. But that was my lot in life at that particular point in time. Dad started it because we lived in the neighborhood, and the schools in Lima, and specifically the one that was a couple blocks from where we lived, was not exactly the bastion of education. The teachers tried, but there was a lot going on that students were falling behind, and Dad thought this was something that could help, and it did. It ran for 10 years or so, maybe even more. Then some other organizations kind of picked it up when Dad moved more into the aspect of community organization and or rehabbing and of houses and such. Mm-hmm. But he just started it when he saw a old school bus that was on its last legs. He refurbished it, made foldable desks that could be brought up and used and so on, and use his skills in mechanics and carpentry and so on to do that. His hobby, instead of golf or something like that, was he would get wrecked cars and fix them up and then sell them. So that's how he, as an honest minister, could supplement his income.
Yeah. And about what year was it when Study on Wheels started? Or how old were you?
It was 65 or 66 that happened. And I was 12 when it first started, or in that general vicinity. I didn't do too much tutoring then, but a few years later, when I was 14 or 15, I did tutoring generally in math or science. Mm. So it not to say that I was the best student in the world, although I was encouraged, since everybody said it, or since my folks said, well, why aren't you studying or doing this or that? If it's so easy, you have to get all A's. So it didn't go very well. Yeah. But it is what it is. So I wouldn't say that I was the best student academically in the world. I was more of a hummingbird that kept flitting from flower to flower.
Okay, now I have questions about the Habitat for Humanity stuff. Mm-hmm. And you said that your dad kind of was instrumental in...
Well, he didn't work with Habitat. Mom did that. Mm-hmm. And this was in the mid-'60s.
Okay.
He worked... there were a variety of federal programs going on that most of them, many of them, I should say, were all about building new homes. Mm-hmm. Dad felt it could be more economically viable, plus older homes quite often are built better than new homes. He wanted to remodel, rehab existing structures, and also he just thought it was more efficient way of doing things. And you could get more bang for your buck if if it cost just figures. If it cost $100,000 to build a house, but you could remodel 3 houses for $30,000, it made more sense. So that's the direction he took, and there was one federal program that was 235D3 and 236H, I think, that did remodeling or allowed rehabs, and he was the first at that point in time in the nation to do that. Then it grew, and other people took advantage of it, certainly. So Habitat took some of those aspects of what he was doing in conjunction with those programs and applied it to their template. But they primarily at that point in time, they do some rehab now too, but they were quite often building new homes.
Yeah.
So that was more their focus at that point in time, and Dad just saw another vision. So
awesome. Do you have any siblings?
I have a sister, yes, and she just recently passed on about 6 months ago.
I'm sorry to hear.
It's unfortunately she had dementia, and it was a sad situation. She's 6 years older than I.
Mm. Yeah. Were you guys close growing up?
Growing up, we were close. We kind of grew apart, both in distance and contact, but we still were loving brother and sister. But we had different opinions in the political arena and in religion quite a bit. So those were
just
two
little things.
Yeah, those were two forbidden subjects when we were about. But she was a wonderful person.
Mm. Yeah. What did she do? What was she like?
She was a school teacher in Wapakoneta, and then later tried to teach. She always wanted to be in the Rocky Mountains. She tried to get a teaching position in Denver, and she gave herself a year, and it just didn't work out. So she came back to the area and ended up teaching in Wapak school system as an elementary school teacher for 25 years. Then she married a fella that was involved in, this was the religion thing, that was involved in something that was, it's just the religion type stuff that I don't agree with, and I'll leave it at that. But he lived in Little Rock, Arkansas. She moved to Little Rock and then worked for the State Board of Education there. And she kind of followed that path.
Mm-hmm. So I always love to ask this question, but say we're in Lima with young Les, and in the movie of your life, describe the opening scene, the house that you're living in. What does it look like? What's playing on the radio? What's Mom doing? What are you doing? What are you interested in as a kid?
What's playing on the radio is CKLW, Windsor, Detroit, the Big 8. That was a big deal in anybody in Lima. I mean, we had local radio stations, but everybody listened to that because it was a much better station.
What kind of music are you hearing?
It was a little bit of everything, but it was Detroit, certainly a lot of Motown. It was a wide variety. It was a little bit different and more of an eclectic mix that you don't find today. I mean, you could hear just Stones, the Beatles, the Temptations, Etta James, Miles Davis. I mean, who knows what you're going to hear? And it was a good radio station. And that's kind of where I kind of developed a kind of an affinity for radio during that period of time. And also our house, the parsonage across the street from the church, had a basketball hoop, and it was the center of the community activities. And, I mean, it was 24/7, it seemed. And we were playing basketball.
Yeah. And so, obviously the church is a huge, community institution that was part of your life and the community, but tell me about kind of the other community things that you were involved in. Like, what schools did you go to?
Well, went to South Junior High and Lima Senior High.
Okay.
And I was more involved in the community than school activities. I mean, it just was that way. I mean, we had a neighborhood band that I was the booking agent and quasi. They called me a manager. I didn't manage hardly anything, but they made me feel good because I couldn't play an instrument. I can play a record player and a radio pretty well, but I can't do any musical instrument. And actually, they were pretty decent. Soul Strugglers is the name of the band.
Soul Strugglers.
Yeah.
What a name. Okay.
Yeah, and had bookings throughout Lima all the time, and a few other places: Fort Wayne, Springfield, Dayton. They won one year. I don't remember which year it was. So it was probably in 70 or 71 at the Montgomery County Fair. They won the Battle of the Bands. So they were pretty good. It was a pretty exciting group.
Nice.
So I spent a lot of time doing that. And besides the things that Dad was involved in, that I was involved in as well. And it kept me busy.
I can imagine. What were the kinds of issues that people in your community were thinking about when you were growing up?
Well, it was. I lived in an all-black community, and obviously civil rights, equal justice was important then, as it is now, and the ability to have a fair shake, make a good living, and being able to raise a family. All those things that are both essential to livelihood, as well as what some folks consider esoteric, but it's certainly not, of equal rights, equal justice, equal opportunity. It was an ongoing thing in Lima, as in anywhere, but Lima was and is an extraordinarily conservative, very, for lack of a better word, racist community. Every year in the high school, every year that I was in the high school, and maybe I was the cause of it, during African American History Week, at that time it was called Black History Week, there would be riots. And it would inevitably start with the white kids starting some scuffle here or there, and then everything would escalate. So that was kind of an annual occurrence. It was a neighborhood that was materially poor, but very, very rich in culture, caring, and community.
Mm-hmm.
So may not have the material accoutrements, but the basis and the foundation for community was always there.
Yeah. And how are you thinking about this as a young person? You're in this Black neighborhood, witnessing kind of the dynamic happening and the kind of disproportionate ways that people are living, the conflict, and then you have, parents that are unique in how they approach their work and the world. So yeah, what was going through your head?
Well, as someone who's young and doesn't have the breadth and width of experience, it's pretty simple. That some people were given a fair shake and some people aren't. I also felt a sense of privilege that other people in my neighborhood were not given. And I was acutely aware of that. And it's something that I certainly don't have all the answers to. I have more questions than answers. But I think that if a level playing field is there and everyone is given not just in words equal opportunity, but true equal opportunity, and that means that generational wealth has to be even as well. Generational opportunities have to be even. So, that's something that doesn't happen overnight. It should, frankly. And if it's an extraordinarily simple thing that is made very complex. You want to treat others as you would want to be treated. And I don't know too many people that disagree with that. However, there's an extraordinary amount of people that don't live that. And that's both from an institutional standpoint and from a church standpoint as well, and certainly a governmental standpoint. So all those things converge. And then the individual on a one-to-one basis too often make strong decisions. But on the other hand, one-on-one, quite often people get along quite well without the pressures of others seeing what they're doing.
Yeah. So when did you finish high school? What year was that?
1972.
Okay. And what was your plan for after?
Well, who knows? I mean, I think any teenager has both grandiose plans that are often dashed. I was going to go to college, and I was accepted at Antioch, so that was kind of what I was going to do. But or what I was going to do and did do. But in the same time, I was trying desperately to get this band to hit big, so they didn't, so I could be traveling around and doing all this kind of thing. Of course, it didn't. And I came to Antioch. My vision for what I would like to do would just be making a difference in a positive way. I didn't have a grandiose thing to think that I could be a political leader or a spiritual leader or any of those things. It never got to that point. When I was quite young, I wanted to be the president of Chrysler Corporation because I was a car freak. That was when I was quite young, when I was building model cars and so on. But that pretty much fell by the wayside as I matured and came to Antioch. And Antioch was a whole nother ball of confusion, I guess. It is when I came to Antioch, there were around 2,000, 2,100 students. It seemed that ever since I came there, it went down precipitously, and I've been told I'm the reason. I don't really take that to heart, but it seemed like that. I was there during the student strike. There when the Air National Guard buzzed the main campus. And when Antioch was trying to do some very paternalistic things and they didn't know what they were doing. Their heart was in the right place, but they felt they knew better and didn't really do all of their due diligence. They had recruited, I think it was roughly 100, 150 students from impoverished areas, and they were primarily black students, and just plopped them in the middle of campus and said, well, here, you can have your education and so on. And it just and then trying to be the father, and that was not the right way of doing things. Instead of welcoming these students with open arms and showing that this could be an avenue that they can have some success in, or make it that. They practically segregated them, segregated the students. I mean, they had their own house. One of the buildings on campus that was the Black Student Union. But which in and of itself isn't a bad thing. But they didn't really gather the students to their heart and really involve them in the community. And it was a mistake. And Antioch, many of the students at the time that I was there, we had a saying that we could count on Antioch to make the wrong decision. So, but it was also a very, in spite of itself, a very liberating school. You could get what you wanted to get out of Antioch, as little or as much as you needed. Mm-hmm. So it had its great attributes, but it also had some really terrible pitfalls too.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing about how kind of the greater student body reacted or responded to what Antioch did with bringing in those Black students?
Well, the greater student body, you have to realize, was pretty privileged white. And the knee-jerk reaction was that, everybody can get along and so on and so forth. But then also there was with some of the white students, some cultural appropriation. Not really, again, not understanding their privilege, and what that meant. I think some of the students grew, some of them didn't. Some of them still probably feel the same way of not understanding the privilege that they were blessed with. By and large, it was a thing of that wasn't as much of a problem with students as what Antioch was doing with their Antioch University system of having various campuses scattered throughout the world and the United States and draining resources from the main campus and putting them into that. That was much more of a top-of-mind beef that everybody was pretty insistent was just a bad idea.
Yeah. Was there ever student protest about that specifically?
No, not really. I mean, there was bitching. The student protests were the major one, of course, was the student strike.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I mean, the IUE, which was the workers on campus, was negotiating a contract as any union would do. Antioch, with its infinite wisdom, decided that, well, no, we don't want to really pay you very much, and was the antithesis of what they taught. And instead of being a collaborative effort, was an adversarial effort, and they took that attitude. And in solidarity, the students struck with the IUE workers. Eventually, Antioch settled. They wouldn't have had to gone through all that if Antioch would have been more enlightened. But it was an interesting time. I mean, we had to turn in our meal tickets at the bank. At that time, it was called Miami Deposit Bank downtown. And since this was the only way that we could get a meal because the cafeteria was closed, and turned in the meal tickets for money that Antioch ponied up. But it wasn't $1 for $1, but but it kept us from starving. And but it was a pretty ridiculous time, really. And at that point in time, I really felt that I just needed to get through the experience and get as much as I could get, and let it just kind of be part of the experience, but not to pin any great hopes and dreams on the Antioch experience as a long-term solution.
Understood. Why did you decide on Antioch in the first place?
Well, I liked the curriculum. It was wide and varied and radical in some respects. I liked the work-study program. It was appealing, and at that time when I first came, it was academically rated on par with some of the elite schools, Ivy League schools, and some of these other schools. I think that when I came that was overstated. You still had great professors. And again, you get what you could get, and you can go on. If you can get as little or as much as you want to get out of things. You can go to a library and get all kinds of information and knowledge, or you can read the funny papers. It's up to you. So that's kind of what anything is, but Antioch was certainly the template for that. It was the people, the staff, the faculty were all outstanding by and large. The administration was off the hook quite often. They had a different agenda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was your major?
Communications and business administration.
Okay. And did you know that you wanted to go into radio?
Well, I didn't. As it didn't become a lifelong career because I always, even when I worked at radio stations, I worked at a couple of them, including WCSU, WELX, WHBM. When I was in Lima, I recorded and did the sound for a couple of community churchy things. It was something that was, from a technical standpoint, I enjoyed it. I really didn't enjoy what they were saying that much, but it provided some experience. So, and then when I came to Antioch, WCSU was in this old student union. Mm-hmm. It was an absolute mess, as was quite often. Most of the campus was kind of messy, but it was always a vibrant place and always a crazy place. I also, it was directly after Antioch, or in the interim, I worked at WLX WHBM, which was where the transmitter and tower was where Lowe's and Walmart is out here in Xenia. And it was owned by Brother James, a black evangelical preacher, but it was a blues and jazz station. And we had a storefront studio on the corner of Detroit and another little street up here that had a big picture window, and we were sitting out there. And that was kind of what I did from a standpoint of the commercial thing. Then from there, I came to WCSU. Mr. Turner, LaRue Turner, I believe, was a station manager. And I pestered him. They had advertised for a operations manager. And I kept pestering him. And I think just to shut me up, he finally acquiesced. Although I discovered this later. He asked me to come in to do an interview with, at that time, I don't know if they still have it, a TV station, a TV studio. And Gordon Cook, who was working at the station, and Willis Parker were there kind of manning the cameras and the board and setting everything up, and brought in Roy Merriweather, a jazz pianist that's a local, started locally and grew up in Dayton, but became nationally and internationally known. So they asked me to do an interview with him, and I said, well, okay. Well, I wrote a few things down and and did the interview, and turned out that was actually the job interview to see if I could handle something just thrown at me.
Yeah.
I would hope that tape is long since gone, because I'm sure I would be aghast at looking at it now.
Okay. I want to go back to Antioch for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about, like, you were the class of 72
to I didn't officially graduate, as many Antiochians, to 76, 77.
Okay, gotcha. I'm thinking about the 70s in Yellow Springs
Mm-hmm.
and in Wilberforce,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the history of the Black Power movement here,
Mm-hmm.
and how that manifested on the radio.
Well, the 70s were kind of a hangover of at least in this area, of the major civil rights movements and victories that happened in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
The 70s were, also we were dealing with the Vietnam War, it was a time that I think a lot of people started to, instead of looking outward and looking at possibilities, started to look inward and become a little more self-centered. In Yellow Springs, Yellow Springs always had the reputation of being liberal and forward-thinking, and in many ways it is. And Antioch provided that basis with its faculty, staff, and students. There was a hue and cry when Green Metropolitan Housing wanted to put some apartments on Corey Street. My God, you think that the locusts were coming. There was very pointed arguments, my property values will go down and things of this nature. It's just ridiculous. So they didn't, both Antioch and Yellow Springs didn't really live up to what they said. They didn't live what they said. They didn't walk the walk. They talked the talk, but they didn't walk the walk. Wilberforce, as a community, me living in Yellow Springs and working in Wilberforce for a short period of time, my sense of community here in Wilberforce was not as strong as what I knew in Yellow Springs. Had a number of friends in Wilberforce, and it just seemed to me to be, for them, an oasis, a place that they can be themselves and have a community that has like values. And I think that it was a respite for many here, and not being not being as plugged in. If I lived here, this was just observations and from anecdotal things that my friends told me here in Wilberforce. I mean, there were a lot of people that it was a very wide and varied community. I mean, I knew one fellow that lived here that was a auto mechanic, and then another couple folks that a family that was business owners of a business in Xenia, and then a number of professors here. So it was a wide variety of individuals that lived at that time in Wilberforce, and it was aspirational to some people that, hey, look, it's a good place to live.
Yeah. So, tell me about your first job out of college. Where was that first?
What was my first job out of college? Besides me doing odd jobs that I did all throughout my life, I think it was working at Hetty's drive-thru in Yellow Springs. I think that was pretty much my first job. It was a hoot. Certainly would find out all kinds of things about people that drove through. Made a lot of friends. It was a interesting place. Worked there for off and on for a couple of years. It was fun and provided a little bit of money. So, but it was not necessarily a career move.
And so, what was like the first job that you had that felt like a career move?
It probably was here at WCSU.
And what year did you start?
You and I were talking about this earlier.
Give me an approximation.
It was mid '80s, I suspect.
Gotcha.
I mean, up until that time, I kind of flirted back and forth, doing all kinds of different things, including, even though I did work for WLX, WHBM, it kind of was the pay was iffy. I mean, literally iffy. I mean, sometimes it just wouldn't happen. And it never was exactly clear what they'd pay you. It was a great learning experience, but it wasn't too much more than that. Mm-hmm. But WCSU was actually, it was a salary job, although I hated the fact that it was a once a month check. Man, toward the end of the month, everybody that, at least in this station, man, we were sucking vapor at that time. I'll tell you, it was pretty rough. We were, we'd have a slice of bread with no bologna.
And what was it like here when you got here? Was it in this building already?
Yes, yeah,
okay.
It was in this building, and at that time the security was in this building as well. So security was in this end of the building, and the radio station was on the other side. It was not nearly as nice as it looks now. It was pretty moth-eaten. We had we had two DJ booths that were just, maybe 5x5 booths that had turntables, tape deck, board, a couple windows, and a mic, and it was enclosed. I mean, you could suffocate in there. We had one larger studio that had a board glass conference table for interviews and so on. Had a newsroom, sort of. We tried to get together a news operation. That didn't. It was kind of, well, we didn't have many people, and to do news, to do it well, is you have to have some boots on the ground. And it was anybody that had any news, you have any news today? So it was kind of a interesting happenstance, but we pulled it together. I'm trying to remember her name. That was the news director at that time. And she had all of herself and one other person. It was a real small staff. I think there was Lamar Turner. He was the station manager and chief engineer. Willis Parker was the assistant manager. Gordon Cook was a jack of all trades. I mean, Gordon was wonderful. He could do about anything. Myself, and then students. And we had a record library that was iffy at best. We tried to put together programs. We'd do some NPR stuff, some news programs, some interviews, music programs quite often. But a lot of times the students would bring in their own music because it was it was certainly better than what we had in the library in some respects. Other respects, the library was a good resource, but it was pretty small. But it was a shoestring operation. Sometimes the transmitter would go snafu, and you're on a frequency, and the needle's sitting right there on your frequency. And there were a couple of times when it was doing this, and that, you're just sweeping 180 degrees back and forth, and that's not supposed to do that. And we got a couple of calls from the FCC about that, and that was Lou Turner's preview. And trouble was, when I said earlier spit and baling wire, I really meant it. Things were put together with Scotch tape a lot, and but it would make it work. And there were some students who got some good experience. I'm not sure if any actually went into broadcasting. I think a few did. At least at that short period of time I was here. So it was a wonderful learning experience for me as well. Making do with little or nothing, and trying to put a product, and you couldn't tell that when you listened. It sounded pretty good.
Yeah. And how closely were you working with the students personally?
Well, pretty close. Not as close as I would like in some respects because, again, we were trying to literally run the station as well. But they were involved in that. The students also would come in quarterly, and it was, we'd have 3 or 4 months here, and then they'd do something else, and that was kind of hard both for them and for us. So what we could do as far as helping in training or imparting knowledge and so on is somewhat limited in that short period of time. We tried to do our best. It was nowhere near what it should have been, I don't think. But that particular program, the work-study program, really wasn't geared toward learning. It was more geared to give students at least a little stipend of income so that they can manage to get through. That was what that particular program was. Now, we did have a few students who would try to come back and, would have shows, and they wanted to do the show. We had this one fellow that I can't call his name, but he did a show. At that time, disco was big, and he did a disco show. And of course, it was none of the stuff that we had in our library. It was all his stuff, and he programmed it. He did the whole 9 yards as well as the on-air personality and so on. So he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I know you said you didn't have a lot of news going on, but when you did have like interviews or public affairs things. Mm-hmm. What were you focusing on?
Well, we were trying to focus on local stuff as opposed to state or national, just because those were the only people we could get to talk to. We did one segment on this was with Dayton Power and Light, kind of a wide-ranging interview from use of nuclear power and how you're going to store stuff, the nuclear waste, and also what this I think was the beginning of the programs that the state initiated of not being able to shut off people's power in the winter. Up until that time, to my knowledge, it could be done anytime. DP&L was under a lot of fire for that, as most utilities were. And we didn't have anything really to do with bringing that up. I'm not trying to toot the horn there. It wasn't that, but we were talking about it. We did talk with some people. We did election coverage, and we were in the basement of the courthouse and doing it remotely, which was really a major accomplishment because it was when I'm talking about spit and baling well, that really was. I mean, we had that thing jerry-rigged up. It came back to the station, and we got it out okay. But this, if I recall correctly, was one of the first elections that DeWine won for county prosecutor. And we interviewed him, and of course, Mike DeWine is his father had DeWine's seed in Yellow Springs, so he was quite often in Yellow Springs. So we tried to do an interview with him for that, but that didn't work out too well. Not because of him necessarily, but just because we couldn't get him to come over where our mics were, and we didn't have the ability to go where he was. Mm-hmm. So that was the problem. But it was interesting, and I did something really really silly there that Gordon specifically, when I came back, asked me what the heck I was doing. I was doing math about if there would be a possibility of somebody to win, and I was projecting winners. Well, with no real – it turned out that I was accurate, but it was only by luck. So I caught hell for that, but it was interesting.
And do you have a sense of who was listening, like who the WCSU audience was?
Well, it really depended a lot on time of day. Students would not listen during the day at all, basically because there was a lot of news, a lot of NPR feeds. That was more going into the surrounding neighborhoods and surrounding community. It was more the audience for that. Students would tune into the music programs if it was, something that they wanted to hear. And that would, at that time, it was the student that was doing the disco program was pretty popular. He had quite a following on campus. As far as the other programs, we were known that you can tune at the bottom of the dial and you can get a good signal. Sometimes you may have to try to find something else because they're talking, and that was not the primary thing that the students on campus wanted to hear. The news they may be interested in, but it was 5-minute intervals as far as national news goes, and that would be at the top of the hour. But the rest of the daily programming was not something that was top of mind with the kids on campus. In the evening, though, and afternoons and evenings, they did tune in. So.
Yeah. And so you come into WCSU after that 74 tornado and after the station was destroyed and moved here and, after and amidst all of the rebuilding that had to happen in Wilberforce. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what that looked like when you got here? Like, were there still like kind of growing pains happening with the new space? How were people thinking about the kind of post-tornado and the new version, I guess, of this campus?
Well, it was traumatic. Unfortunately, Central State has always been the stepchild of the state. They've never really received the due that they should have. For instance, something as simple as the proximity of state-sponsored schools. Wright State shouldn't be in the location it's at, with Central State being where it's at. Wright State got the lion's share of the funding, and that always was a pet peeve of people here at Central State. The tornado did a lot of damage in Xenia and Wilberforce and Cedarville. Wilberforce and Central got some rebuilding funding, not to the extent that I think was necessary and needed, and had to fight for every dollar they got. And at times that wasn't exactly adequate to really rebuild or to enhance. Because to begin with, Central State was always getting the short end of the stick from state institutions. And it was just patently unfair, not a level playing field like we were talking about. and the funding that Central did get was primarily shepherded through by C.J. McClin. At that time, he was a state representative, and before he was mayor of Dayton. And even after he was mayor of Dayton, I think that he was a state representative. But he was responsible for a lot of funding of Central. But he was only one person, and it really wasn't that adequate. And, then it became a situation that the lack of funding, the lack of funds, everybody tried to get their fair share at the dinner table, and there wasn't quite enough to go around. So there were some people left out in the cold. And Central State has always had budget issues for a variety of reasons, but primarily they've never received the state support that they needed and deserved. And my period at Central State in WCSU was cut short because of budget shortfalls. And I probably still, I don't know if I'd still be here, but I certainly would have had a longer career in radio and so on if I would have stayed or been able to stay. But because of budget cuts, I was kind of like the last hired, first fired. So.
Yeah. So what do you do after that?
Well, what I did all the time that, I did a variety of other jobs hither and yon, but all throughout, from when I was in high school to now, I would always fix stuff. So during that period of time after CSU or WCSU and to now, I've basically been a general contractor. And taken the skills that when I was a kid, I was kicking and screaming that I wanted to go play basketball. I don't want to build a damn house. But those skills have come in quite handy and useful. And it's something that as I go on, I enjoy. I don't do physically as much as I used to do, but I do have a very, very small crew that we do things here and there.
And so your time at WCSU and the Telecommunications Center, was that like happening at the same time?
As being a contractor?
Mm-hmm.
No. Well, I always did that as a side hustle. But after the budgetary cuts and after I left WCSU, it became more than a side hustle. It became a necessity. So, yes, it kind of grew from there. And I'd take other jobs here and there, but because of either my bullheadedness or ethics or doesn't play well with others. I don't know. There's a variety of excuses that are set forth as to, and also just some of the jobs I did. I would not want as a career. I worked for U-Haul for a little bit. That was just pure misery. But it was a paycheck. It worked for a short period of time. So, there have been little stops here and there that are not career defining in any stretch of the imagination.
Understood. So I'm here as part of the HBCU Radio Preservation Project. Obviously, we think that the history and legacy of HBCU radio is something unique and important and worth being spoken about and preserved. Can you talk about, like, how you think about HBCU radio specifically? Do you think it's important? What is its value?
Absolutely, it's important.
Tell me about that.
One cannot speak for somebody else. If you do, you're making a huge mistake. HBCU schools, radio, this is a voice. And it's a voice that needs to be heard and needs to be expanded upon and listened to. It can also form a basis and a starting point for people in what you may be doing in journalism, in telecommunications, whatever it may be. Having those skills as that basic foundation to build upon. First jobs are nothing but a foundation. And education, and whether it's elementary school, high school, college, those are all foundations that you were laying something that you were going to be building the house. But you have that base that allows you to build, that you have a stable base. So the importance of that and the voice of that needs to be celebrated and really expanded upon, I believe. There are WCSU has always been, I mean, from when I was here to now, this is pure luxury, what we were dealing with. But from a standpoint of what is out there now, this is not luxury probably. This is only the basics. But that's how you really learn how to do things. Necessity is the mother of invention. Not saying that you want to make everybody a poor little church mouse and then have them find their own way. No. But you can have that basis that you can innovate, you can grow, and you can build upon. It needs to be expanded and celebrated and really investigated and looked at and understand the value of what HBCU schools and radio stations and TV stations in some cases really do.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you think about your role personally when you started working here and working in management, kind of at this?
Well, I was acutely aware that the last thing I should do is to tell anybody what to do. My role here when I was hired was operations manager to basically keep operations going and try to expand upon it. And that's what I did. And with collaboration of everyone else at the station and the students that worked here as well. I wanted to make sure, and frankly, I was not in that position where I could be a taskmaster or tell someone my way or the highway or something of that nature. I just wasn't in that position, nor is that my personality. But I was very cognizant that I'm here as a collaborative effort, and if I can add some hands to the wheel, that's what I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we're in 2025, right?
Yeah.
And radio looks a lot different now
Mm-hmm.
than it did. And technology is in a different place. People consume audio in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it's still important to invest in radio, invest in broadcast professionals and students that are interested in the medium?
Well, I think it's a gateway also. That again, the foundation that you're building. I mean, many of the skills that you have in radio or TV, you can translate to other medium, podcasts, internet, whatever. So I think that it's important to have that base. It's also important for nonprofit and radio stations that are NPR that they continue and they be funded because you get that information. Yes, there's a cost to it, but you don't have to pay a subscription fee either. So anytime information in anything always has a price. But if we're putting a price tag on knowledge and information, then that price becomes too high. It becomes something that the favored few have the resources to do that. Even if you have the resources to have all the information you could possibly consume, you have a risk of becoming pigeonholed and having the algorithm only speak to your predilection and not your growth. So I think if you can get into having the foundational resources that radio stations and colleges provide, you then have the tools to be able to do what it's called, broadcast it, make it wide open, make it available to everyone. Because if you don't have that available, then you're dealing with uninformed and ill-informed mass.
Yeah. Yeah. What was different about working at WCSU under the context of it being an HBCU station than some of the other radio stations that you've worked on with?
Well, they were commercial stations, first
Mm-hmm.
of all. And it's an entirely different animal. A commercial station is just that. We are looking as a station in order to stay alive, you have to sell. And sometimes it's pretty damn pathetic. Sometimes it's kind of fun. I mean, when I was with WLX, WHBM, I got to go to the old Jillies and free as advertising, and see some great jazz players. And, that experience I'll never have again. When I was with a nonprofit, both WISO and WCSU, I was at CSU. WISO I was just running in and out of. But at WCSU, the focus was on information, education, and being a resource that can both be entertaining and informative. Commercial radio is all about the bottom line, just as TV is. And unfortunately, even podcasts are too. I mean, it's all about the bottom line. If you have 2 subscribers, then you're just simply doing it to hear your own voice, which maybe for some people that's quite enough, and maybe it should be quite enough with some people. But it's what happens in the society that we live in. That information, as we said before, is not free. You may not have to pay for it, but you're probably going to have to hunt for it. So when I was here at WCSU, we provided a resource that we could hunt for that information together. And sometimes we failed miserably, sometimes we succeeded. We just are trying to do the best we could when we were here. And I think that's all that any of us can do.
Yeah. And what do you think you've learned about yourself working in this industry?
That it's easy to become jaded. That it's easy not to have joy. And that you can become very cynical very fast. In order to counteract that, I think you really need to ground yourself in things that are important to you and things that are important to society as a whole, and work toward those goals and improve upon those goals, to never be satisfied and always be growing. You can use the telecommunications industry both for good and for evil. It's always a two-edged sword with practically anything that we have, whether it be the pen, whether it be telecommunications, whether it be just the spoken word. It can be uplifting and the same token a shovel. So I think that one needs to become I've become aware of that, even though I'm not in that industry anymore. Anywhere that you walk and anywhere that you have interactions with people, you can take some of the resources, some of the lessons that I've learned in communications and translate that to other fields. It's the bottom line is to listen to people, speak the truth, and don't be fooled.
Yeah. I think it's amazing what, just having a good rapport can do.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something that I've learned myself, kind of working in journalism and comms and adjacent things, but I feel like it's made me better at a lot more than just my job.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, if you And that's one thing that working here, I became very good friends with Gordon Cook. Unfortunately, I haven't kept in touch with him, but he was a very interesting person that his main mode of transportation was motorcycle. And he'd do it no matter what weather. He had full weather gear and everything, and and he lived in Dayton at that time. And he'd come here whether it was snowing, raining, whatever, and on that motorcycle. And but he was also a very talented person. He knew communication. He had been in the industry for quite a while. He was a floor director at WDTN. And I don't know where he is now or if he stayed in the industry or whatever. I'd like to find out. If you find out about Gordon, let me know.
Okay. So outside of being a general contractor, what do you like to do? Like what gives your life meaning? What are you focused on?
Well, it blows my hair back, as it were, even if I did have a little hair on the top of my head. I would like to say lofty things, but I would be lying, unfortunately. I would like to say that I have many projects that I'm involved in, but I'm not. I think that we're all on an unfinished journey that will always be a journey, and that is what I'm on. And I think that's what I have to enjoy. Sometimes the journey can be mundane. Sometimes it can be very uplifting. With the political climate that we're in now, I'm absolutely aghast and depressed, and find it. I don't find it hard to believe, frankly, because this is. I hate the term of this is not who we are. No, this is who we are, and the sooner that we realize that, the more that we are going to be on the road to heal. We've never reconciled our sins of the past, from the genocide of indigenous people to slavery to the haves and the have-nots of obscene wealth and abject poverty. We've had instances where we've been able to show that there is some hope. Unfortunately, those instances are becoming less and less common now. I think what provides me with the most pressing thing that I need to do is to be a voice against craziness and for the positive things that all humans should be able to enjoy, whether that be a fair living, a fair wage, equal opportunity, the ability to not be ridiculed or demeaned or discriminated against because that's who you are. It's a long, long, long list of what should be human aspirations that currently are tried to be put as detriments when they aren't. They're actually affirming things. I think that the co-opting of the term woke by the far right and the right is instructive of part of that. The term was simply meant to say, hey, I'm aware of this. I know what's going on. And then to try to demonize that. It's the height of irresponsibility and the height of not being woke, of not being aware, of not being in tune with who you could be, but only in tune with the dark side of your nature.
So, Les, how do we resist? What does your resistance look like
How
in
do we
2025?
resist?
Yeah.
Well, I think we do it every day. We have to do it when we have conversations with friends, neighbors that may or may not have our predilection of what we believe, of participating wherever we can participate in marches and protests, and if you can't physically do that, sometimes I can't physically do that, then support in whatever way you can, whether it be monetary, whether it be emotional, whether it be writing letters or making phone calls to your congressman and telling him he's an idiot. There is no silver bullet for this whole thing. It's the only good thing I can say about it is a house of cards. That I may not live to see the end of this silliness. I hope I do, but there's no reason that some of the folks that have come into power should be in power, because it's all about power. It's not about helping people. It's not about furthering the human experiment and the human condition. It's all about gathering as much as you can gather in your own little pocket. And anytime that one does that, you're diminishing yourself and your possibilities. You can't. My father was a minister and a Christian. I don't consider myself a Christian. I consider myself a spiritual person. But folks who try to say that they're Christian and doing exactly the opposite should realize that if you say you're Christian and doing the exact opposite, you would imprison that person that you say founded your faith and your religion, because he helped the poor, he helped the downtrodden, he worked with the sick, he worked with the marginalized people, he threw money changers out of the temple. And if you go to other religions, Muhammad, Abraham, Moses, on and on and on through all various iterations of different theological and spiritual thought, there always is a thread of decency and good toward others, not toward yourself, not to enrich yourself. And that's a common thread. And very seldom do you see a vengeful and revenge. In the Old Testament, yeah, somewhat. It's kind of a bloody little thing going on there. But hopefully humans have evolved. We have evolved sometimes. But unfortunately, we have knowledge but not wisdom. So we have to get some of the wisdom too.
Knowledge but not wisdom. Yeah. Do you have any words of advice for an early career version of yourself, someone who is interested in radio broadcast, but in this moment, what would you say?
Learn as much as you can. Sharpen your interpersonal skills as much as you can, and you're doing very well, by the way.
Thank you.
Be able to talk to anyone at any time and listen. And if this is your career calling, follow that career. Don't necessarily. I mean, I kind of fell into having to make money because I had a family, and that becomes I could have done it in broadcasting, but you also have to understand the broadcasting and/or communications. Communications is a much more varied and wide field now. Broadcasting at the time I was coming up, I mean, even now, I mean, radio and TV personalities and working in radio and TV, people think they're making oodles of money. You can make more at McDonald's. You really can. I mean, I remember once that when I was doing something, I went up to Young's and they had this little pamphlet that said, well, become their starting pay was more than I was making. So, yeah, but it is a field that you can make a difference, that you can make, because just what we're talking about, things can be inspirational. And how do you inspire? You inspire through sight, sound, spoken word, everything that communications is about. And you have to use every skill at your disposal sometimes to move someone. But you know it when you hit the bell. For a while, some of the other things I did, I was a club DJ too. And sometimes when I'd hit a mix or hit something just right, you get that chill. You can also get that chill when you're speaking or when you're asking a question or when you hear an answer or a response. So the answer is to learn as much as you can, to realize that not everything is gospel, but you can also learn with some of the craziest places that you can imagine and situations that you may be in that you can imagine. Be innovative. I mean, if you got ideas about how to do something, and go for it. All you can do is fail, but you learn something. You never move forward unless you scrape a knee occasionally. Of course, you never move forward unless you walk. And if you don't walk and if you don't move, well, you're going to be stuck. So just go for it and learn as much as you can, enjoy as much as you can. I will say that in communications, when I was in it, I met some of the most interesting people. And some of the people that I don't know too much now because I've been out of the field, but some of the most insightful people about things. Now, maybe that's still the case. I hope it is. But, we do have outlets now that are way, way out with disinformation. And that's one thing I could never understand is how anyone with a straight face and with any kind of conscience or morality can espouse things that they know are untrue. It just it makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, I hear that. Oh, wow. I could ask you so much more, but unfortunately we're kind of running out of time.
Oh, certainly.
But is there anything that I didn't ask about or that we didn't get to talk about that you think is important for the record about you, about WCSU, about your experience in general?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I just would like to reiterate that HBCUs need to be celebrated. The communications that they have need to be celebrated. And they shouldn't, any university, even on the opposite end of the spectrum, should not be put under a governmental boot. You never can learn, advance, or excel unless you have open dialogue, open discussions, wide-ranging topics, where you learn, no matter what you learn, isn't preconceived. If you already have the answer, why do you learn? No one has the answer, so that's what you're searching for. And unfortunately, now in the climate that we're in, that curiosity is being squelched. And if you want to survive as a species and excel as a species, that can't be quelched because that's the essence of who humans are. Unfortunately, the reason they're squelching it is because the essence of humanity doesn't respond well to authoritarianism. Because we have a bunch of people that say, well, that may not be a good idea. Yeah, you aren't going to be able to have those sheep follow you down the road. So don't ever be a sheep. Although they're cute, but don't ever be a sheep.
Thank you so much, Les, for sitting down with me today.
Okay, very good.
This was amazing.